I'm Somia, and you're listening to Philosopreneur, where we explore the intersection and integration of the philosopher and entrepreneur. Today's guest is Alejandra Peña. Alejandra is a passionate community builder and impact-focused entrepreneur from Ecuador. She graduated with an honors degree in economics and business administration with a concentration in social entrepreneurship from Northeastern University. Some of her past professional experiences range from launching a new loan product for Hispanic entrepreneurs with Kiva, a fintech startup in San Francisco, directing a global fellowship for impact entrepreneurs in New York, and founding Aweik, a community-focused organization that empowered young Latin Americans to dream big and create meaningful enterprises for over 5 years. She has been a TEDx speaker, Oxford's Skoll World Forum panelist, mentor, and a judge in various entrepreneurship events around Latin America. Currently, she is pursuing an MA in Spirituality, Mind, and Body at Columbia University. I hope you enjoy this conversation. Hi, Ale. Thank you for joining me on the Philosopreneur podcast.
Thank you for having me. I'm super excited to be here.
Yeah, you're my fifth episode and the first lady
Yay!
on my podcast. So maybe we can begin by just, telling our audience a little bit about who you are, what you're up to lately.
Okay, perfect. So my name or?
No, just what you're up to.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Right now I'm doing a master's at Columbia University here in New York, and I'm studying spirituality, mind, and body. But before that, I was really involved in the entrepreneurship world. That's where I met Somia. We worked together at a fintech in San Francisco, social impact fintech. And after that, I went back to Ecuador and started this community for young entrepreneurs called Aweik with my twin sister. And we've been really involved in the impact entrepreneurship space.
Nice. And can you just say that, what was the name of your degree again? Mind, Body, and?
It's a master's in the science of spirituality, mind, and body.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Master's in spirituality, mind, and body.
Yeah.
Okay. Very
from
interesting.
Columbia University.
Yeah.
It's within the Department of Psychology.
Okay. Mm-hmm. So what, you've been deeply involved in the world of entrepreneurship since I've known you. I mean, that's, as you mentioned, that's how we met. So what inspired you to do this degree right now?
That's such a good question. I think when I was so involved, or my peak of involvement was in 2018, and I was working here in New York for a venture capital, and I was so focused on doing and achieving. And you know how when you are so focused on that part of, or very in my masculine energy.
Yeah.
So focused in that I lost touch with my emotions and my feminine energy. And I wasn't able to enjoy what I was doing. I wanted only to achieve and get somewhere, It was almost like I was running somewhere and I didn't know where exactly. But I felt exhausted, physically drained, disconnected from my feelings. And yeah, I think I reached a bottom there. And that's when I decided to quit my job and move back to Ecuador and started to reconnect with myself, with my feelings, and had this spiritual awakening that had been in me since I was little. But I think that during those 2 years in Ecuador, it coincided with the pandemic as well. So it was, all the world stopped and I had so much time for myself. And I started to meditate, to read about philosophy or self-development. And I discovered this huge inner world that I was enjoying so much. And when I was applying, I felt that I was ready to go out of Ecuador again. And I wanted to study and do my master's. And of course, at the beginning, I applied to MBAs because that was the logical route for me, because of my background. But when I was applying to MBAs, I felt like my body said no, a whole body resistance to it. I didn't want to. Yeah. It was so hard for me to concentrate on the applications. I really didn't want to. So I said, okay, maybe it's not the time for me to do a master's. And then I don't know how it happened, but this master appeared. And you know those things when you just see the description and you know that's the right thing for you. And it's funny because the only thing I didn't like about the master was the fact that it was in New York City.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because I had all these memories about being so disconnected from my soul and my body in New York. And it was so ironic that I had to go back to New York to do these masters in spirituality, mind and body. So I had like this initial hesitation because I didn't want to come back here. But then I was like, no, I really have to do it. And that's how I ended up doing this.
Yeah, wow, that's incredible. I think that paradox of having to come back to a place that doesn't actually really, well, I don't want to say it doesn't embody that, but it would be hard for someone to embody that sense of spirituality in a place like New York.
Exactly.
But I think it's beautiful that you're being asked to hold that paradox of learning and delving into spirituality in a place like New York.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's beautiful. And I remember you also sharing with me that you applied to Acumen, which was, I know, one of your biggest one of your biggest aspirations to work with Jacqueline Novogratz, and you had that whole body no as well in this case, right?
Exactly.
So that was very interesting, that your intuition was really loud and speaking to you at a time in which you were deepening into that realm. So I think that's really beautiful.
Exactly. That was crazy. I achieved what I really wanted for a long time. And then I had this inner feeling of, that's not where you have to go. Like, that's not what you need to do. And instead I did another whole thing that maybe we can talk about that later, but now I know it was the best decision.
Yeah. What? Oh, is it the trip that you took?
Yeah, I took a trip to Latin America.
Yeah, please share more about that. So you were, you had your summer and you left New York. You went back to Latin America, and what did you do? Please tell me.
Okay. So I'm starting this new business.
Yes.
It's very early on, but it's a business with my co-founder, who is also a student at the SMBI program. And what we want to do is bridge the gap between seekers and healers. So people that are seeking something deeper, and all the people that have this wisdom and different practices that can help them heal or transform. So there's a huge disconnection. And a lot of these healers are indigenous communities. A lot of these healers are indigenous people from Latin America. So during that trip, we wanted to really do a field research and understand the lives of these communities and their cosmovision, how they saw life. So we went to Santa Marta, which is in Colombia. We did a hike of 4 days.
Wow.
Without internet, without anything. We had to sleep like on hammocks, and it was crazy.
Nice.
But we went with the indigenous leaders of some indigenous communities in the Sierra Nevada de Santa Marta.
Wow.
And it was amazing because we had all the day to talk with them and just learn how they see the world, which is so different from how we see it. And then we went to Ecuador to relax a little bit because it was intense. And after that to Peru, and we also shared many experiences with communities in the Sacred Valley.
Oh,
so
wow.
near Machu Picchu, Cusco. We didn't go to Machu Picchu because it was closed. But,
it was? Okay.
But we had so much time and to spend with these communities, and we gained so many insights and wisdom from that.
Wow. So you did a lot of, in some sense, you did a deep customer interview.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Exactly.
And how long was this entire trip?
It was for a month.
Okay, wow.
It was long.
Yeah, you must have a tremendous amount of insights. So this is interviews for the healers, right? Specifically, you would say, because
exactly.
they are the indigenous people who are healers. But what about the other side, the seekers? Where have you done any customer interviews?
Yes, we have.
Okay, you
have.
A lot. How is that coming through?
It's very interesting. There's a huge market here in New York. And it's basically me in 2018.
Okay.
So people that are working like a 9 to 5, or in New York it's never 9 to 5, it's 9 to 10 p.m., 11 p.m., or even 1 a.m.
Yeah.
So that are so invested in their work and are deeply disconnected from their emotions and their more feminine energy. So we've been talking to a lot of people. I know a lot of them because all of them are my friends. I was one of them. And yeah, there's this need, and one of the main pain points is that it's really hard for them to trust the source. Like, okay, who should I see and where can I begin? That's the most common question. Like, where should I begin? I know I know I'm not fully satisfied with my life. I know like maybe the economic needs are taken care of. I'm like making a lot of money. I have like financial stability, and I'm where I always wanted to be, but there's something missing. That's always the feeling is there's something missing, but I don't know where to seek. I don't know where to start. So we want to build this personalized platform to help you with your needs find like the best healer for you.
Wow, amazing. And where are you on that journey right now?
We are in the early stages of customer interviews to validate the pain points. We are developing the brand right now.
Nice.
And yeah, we are in that stage.
And what is it called?
What?
The venture. What is the platform?
We don't have a name.
Oh, you don't have a name yet. Okay. Wow.
We are just like, last week I had a meeting with my co-founder and another friend who is helping us. Like, she's very creative and she does like these amazing workshops to explore different names.
Oh, nice.
So we are in the phase of exploration and like letting ideas sink in, and like it's the expansive phase of the business, like the early on stages where you can dream big and just like think about everything.
Yeah.
So yeah.
That's awesome. Very cool. So you're probably just starting with the New York market right now.
Yeah. Okay. We want to start with New York.
That's good. And then
it's a huge market.
You can expand. Wow. I mean, it's a very exciting venture, and I'm looking forward to seeing how it unfolds.
Yeah, I'm so excited.
I think the way you did a whole trip with the indigenous people is just a very fascinating way to do customer interviews.
Yeah, exactly. And you know what? Basing myself on my previous experiences, I really want this to be really aligned.
Yeah.
And I want to be on my feminine energy while building this, So it's like this sense of co-creating with like the universe, or like getting ideas and being open to new things, instead of just like having a fixed mindset or of that's where I need to go and this is how I want to do it.
Yeah.
So yeah, let's see how it goes.
Yeah,
I'm excited to have another one of these sessions 1 year from now to tell you about how everything is going.
Absolutely. I know you're gonna be very far off once we do this 1 year again. I think what you're bringing up is very interesting about the masculine and the feminine. And earlier, before we started the recording, we were talking about how I feel like I'm in this very masculine place. I'm just starting my venture as well, and I talked about how it feels like going into war, which is a very masculine thing. It's like entering the battlefield. How do you, so far in your experience, how does one bring that balance? I think it's very important, that yin yang quality for I think all of humanity to begin to hold. We need to have that balance. In fact, I think many of us are seeking the divine feminine because it's been lost.
Exactly.
That's why there's a lot of killing and just a tremendous amount of pain and suffering in the world, because that divine feminine is nowhere to be seen. Well, I wouldn't go as far as to say that, but it definitely wants to come through.
Exactly.
And it's finding a way to come through. So from your perspective, how can a young entrepreneur, especially a woman in this world, balance that? How can she bring in the femininity while also because you need to be assertive.
You have to,
as an entrepreneur. You're dealing with all these challenges. I mean, one after another. It's relentless. It's nonstop. So how does one do that from your perspective?
Yeah, I think it's about bringing certain elements that are seen as like feminine or that help you embody that feminine energy into the workspace. So, for example, play, joy, creativity, like those flowy elements. I recently took this class on somatic leadership. It was so interesting, and we studied Jeannie Whitelaw. I don't know if you've heard of her. She's like a leadership coach and a leadership expert, but a somatic leadership expert. And she talks about these four leadership styles. One is the organizer, the other one is the visionary, the other one is the driver, and the last one is the collaborator. And actually, you could put a link. There's a free test. It's called the Phoebe model, and you can see what are your stronger energies or your strongest energies. And for me, it was the organizer and visionary. But the organizer and the driver are very masculine energies, and you need the four of them to be like a really well-rounded leader and to take your enterprise or a startup to the next level. So, for example, taking this model, if you have an organizer and a driver energy, like very strong organizer and driver energies, you need to balance them with like the visionary and the collaborator energies, which are more feminine. So you have to think how I can bring more of those energies into my workspace. So, for example, if you want to do embodied practices, you can, to bring, for example, the collaborator energy, you can do something more fun, and even like your body is like more of this movement, swinging side from side, and you can play loud music and just dance alone in your room. That's like very practical and small ways of bringing that feminine energy. But also you can set aside time for like play. And
I can see that. I think I mean, I love this class, and I would love to, if you can share that link, maybe we can have other people take it as well. I'd love to take it myself. I think there's something about being embodied as a woman, because unlike men, we're very tuned into, you know, our monthly cycle, and there's something about being in the body that actually brings forth a lot of femininity. So I love that, you know, movement and just kind of not being so in the mind all the time. Do you think that it's valuable for men to be doing that as well, or is it good to have a separation? You know,
no, I do think it's valuable for men to do that, because all of us have the feminine and the masculine inside us. I do think there's a value in the separation of, like, you know, we are women and we have to embody that, because well, I don't know. But
it's okay.
I do think there's a value in like being masculine or being feminine. But also, like, if you go to the extremes, you are gonna be missing a lot of things, you know. So you have to cultivate within your masculinity the femininity inside that, you know.
I can see that. And I just wonder whether for a man, it's like, you know, to have maybe like 60% of that masculinity and 40% of that femininity, and same for women to have. I mean, I don't know how to like actually, but I'm just saying, is it valuable for a woman to really be a woman in this world, and for a man to really be a man in this world? Because men obviously go into the battlefield for a reason, right? I mean, they have the capacity to deal with tragedy in a way that women perhaps don't. So there's a value. I know we live in a culture where there's a lot of politics around, you know, what is a man, what is a woman, but
but we're talking about the energies, right?
Yes.
It's not about being a man or a woman. It's about what the energies represent.
Yes, you're right.
Which is very different. Like, if you want to embody a masculine energy and you were born in like a feminine body, it doesn't matter. Like,
but I would, you know, look further into that, because there's our hormones, right? And that's why I brought up the menstrual cycle and obviously testosterone for men. I do think that there is an interconnected relationship with the spiritual, where we talk about this masculine feminine energy, but then there's a partnership with with the body as well,
Yes.
which is the hormones. So that's why I feel like it's a bit of a tough situation that we're in the world right now. But I do think the body is very, very important.
It is.
Yeah.
And it's very, very wise.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. Very, very wise. Yeah. Well, this is definitely an area that we can continue to, talk about
Endlessly.
Yeah, endlessly.
Yeah.
So you're on this deep spiritual journey right now, and you said you've been reading philosophy books and self-development books, and obviously you're doing a master's right now. What kind of philosophy has emerged for you in terms of your way of life?
Wow, such a deep question. I love it. You're always gonna get the deepest questions with Sonia in this podcast. So what has emerged as a philosophy for me? I think lately I've been really, really looking for that balance. Like once accepting, first of all, I've been trying to accept the duality of things.
Yes.
There's always gonna be opposites, and the feminine, the masculine, the rational, the irrational. I think our world works because we have these opposites, but I've been trying to sit in the middle and just interact with both without judging them, without thinking one is better than the other. And I've been trying to find that balance, which is really, really hard to do. Especially if you, for example, now that I'm starting my business, I've been more in the masculine and I want to go and do and achieve, and I lose a little bit more of the feminine, which is normal. There's always gonna be times in your life where you are more in one side and then in the other, and that's okay. But I think that I really wanted to see if it's possible to be in the middle, and that's what I've been exploring right now.
I think there's a lot of value to doing that. I've been on a similar journey. That's why I love paradoxes. One of my favorite paradox, koan, the Zen koan, is by Dogen, who says to study the self is to forget the self. And I love that.
Wow.
Because there's so much truth to it,
So
and I think
much.
that paradoxes hold the truth of life. So I think it's a very valuable philosophy that you're living by.
Yeah, exactly. I've been unlearning everything that I have learned so far, and I've been changing so much as a result of that. And I love seeing that you have changed a lot too. I can see your essence; it's the same, but the way you think it's different. But you have been exploring all the range of possibilities, you know. So I love that. I think you can get very wise by doing that.
Yeah, that's the beauty of life, that evolutionary impulse. You just go from here to there. And we should all have the freedom to do that, We shouldn't be held to our old thoughts, our old values, because we're all going to change with the experiences that we have. Okay, so you did talk about, your entrepreneurial endeavors, but let's go deeper into it, because you've been on a phenomenal journey, I must say. And you have a family business. You can talk. Maybe you can talk a bit about what that's been like, because your grandfather started it, and your father, and you joined your father at one point as well. And your mom is an entrepreneur. You come from this very entrepreneurial family. So you are obviously embedded in such values, and at a very young age, you and your twin sister Vane started a conference, a large social entrepreneurship conference. And I attended it. It was very, very, I mean, I was
all
amazed.
the way from Japan.
And that was, how old were you? Yes, it was quite a trip. I think that was 2018.
2018.
So we were about 24.
22.
Yeah.
I was 22.
22, then I was 23. Yes, I was 20. So very young age, you did that, and you did one a year before that as well, right? So you've done 3 or 4 altogether now.
4.
Ale has hosted 4 large scale. How many people?
800
people. She and her twin sister facilitated. I mean, did the whole thing. It's really, really amazing. So you've done that. You did microfinance in India as well, and you did at Kiva. now you're kind of a director, volunteer at a what was it called, Sigma Squared, which was actually Kairos.
Yeah.
And maybe you can touch on that whole journey if you would like to. And now you're starting this new venture.
Yeah.
So just I think I'd like to know, from all of these areas that are to do with business, what have you learned, and have you found a sense of similarity that converges in all those areas, and also what are some major differences you have found in all these: family business, social entrepreneurship, very strong business related entrepreneurial efforts, and also having a conference all together. I don't know if that's a question that.
No, yeah, it's such an interesting question. Yeah. Like, there are so many layers to it. I could talk about like the differences in like business model wise, which every single one of them is extremely different.
Right.
But let me think of a more interesting angle. Okay, first of all, I think the family business, if I could describe like family businesses around the world, I think they are very resilient because they are so rooted in values, in family values. So I think there's so much beauty in family businesses because it's like a legacy, like you infuse the values of your family in the business. You take care of the people. That's the case of our family business. We see the people as our extended family. And it's beautiful to see that culture. And it's never going to be as huge as an Amazon or a Facebook, but I do think that it's more likely to stand the test of time. And businesses that are like very, very long or have been there for a long time usually are family businesses. Because they are very resilient. Because it goes, like, it transcends the need of, I don't know, to make money or just to grow things at a large scale, but it's like you are doing it for yourself and for your family and the generations to come. So it's very beautiful. Whereas, for example, the world of entrepreneurship, and there's a slower pace to it.
To family business. Yes.
And now I'm going to compare it to the world of entrepreneurship, startups, and especially VC-backed startups. The pace is so fast. So fast. You need to get things done by yesterday, like, now. And there's a lot of money. There's a lot of smoke as well. I do think that there's beauty in bootstrapping and building slowly versus growing super fast, but also the impact that you can have with startups and the amount of people you can reach and the borders you can cross is infinite. So I would say that that's the main difference, like the pace and the rhythm and pace.
I can see that. There's it's relentless, and that's what leads to a lot of crashes as well. We work is such a great example. It's all about growth, and then suddenly it's like, nope, we want to see your cash flow. And
there are so many bubbles. So many. No, it's crazy. But also, like, it's funny because when I was in the startup world, I saw the world of family businesses as boring, I was like, oh no, it's like a dinosaur, too like slow. But then when I worked in my family business, I started to see that it was so sturdy and so strong, and I was like, wow, so
that's so beautiful. I think there's a lot of beauty and power to something like that. It stands the test of time. And what about social entrepreneurship? That's been a big part of your journey. How do you see that? We have this world of just pure startups, but what about social entrepreneurship?
Okay, I think that's in the middle. Let's put it in the middle. Like, if family business is here and VC, tech, high growth startups are here. I think that's why I love social entrepreneurship, because you want to grow, but you want to grow because you want to prioritize impact. And growing means that you are reaching more people and you are generating more impact. But you also have to do it the right way. So it's not growing for the sake of growing, which is the case for a lot of VC-backed startups. They want to grow because they want to generate returns for the investors. But in social entrepreneurship, and you have been part of this world as well for a long time, I love that you really have to think things through. Like you really have to make sure that you are doing the right thing and generating the impact that you want to generate. So Acumen, that's why I love Acumen so much.
Patient capital,
and they are not a huge enterprise, They have been around for 20 years or more, I think, but they are not extremely big. They are not a Sequoia or like
right
huge, but they are doing so much. They go deep. They don't go like far. They go deep. And that's what I love about social enterprises.
That's really great. What about this idea that, I mean, with nonprofits and social enterprises, that they're always kind of, I mean, they're doing it for a really good reason, which is impact, and they're trying to use the business model to do that. But then they're more or less always strapped for cash, and then there's a lot of issues that come up in because we need capital to make a tremendous amount of impact. And obviously I'm sure there's many business models out there that are doing a great job at it without. But what is the value of just appreciating the role that capital and profit plays in terms of even these impact-oriented ventures?
If you don't have capital, you cannot have impact, Even non-profits, they need donors. And it's a pain to always ask for money, but there are some things that cannot be done through the capitalist. Well, yes, you use the money of donors, but you cannot develop a self-sustainable business model. For example, Vane, my twin sister, she's working in conservation, and she's right now doing a master's in Oxford. And she was so pro, we have to find a sustainable way of doing this. We have to find an income generating activity. We have to create something. But then she realized that if you really want to preserve a natural space, you're not going to generate money by doing that. That's it. You're not going to generate money. You need the money from someone that has generated its own capital and that values preserving nature, So you need to, instead of generating capital from this or from this activity, you just need to channel the capital from other activities into that. So capital is so important, because if you don't have that, you have nothing. But also, I do think there are problems that cannot be solved through a pure capitalistic approach. You do need non-profits.
And perhaps it can get tainted at times if you're just working on a capitalistic approach. Then generating money will become more of the goal, and then the impact may lose itself. But as you were talking about Vane and her desire to have a revenue generating model to conserve nature, Monterey Bay Aquarium came to mind. They're a nonprofit, but they have a revenue generating activity, which is like bringing in people through tickets to see the animals, but then they're helping to conserve the ocean and do research. And so that's a really, maybe something for her or for you guys to look into. I don't know how one would do that, but it's there's always a lot of creativity in this world.
Like they are like developing like a branch of tourism and stuff like that, but the amount of capital you need, it's never gonna be enough.
You have to need donors.
You need to. You need donors.
That is true.
And that's okay. You know, learning how to receive, it's a very feminine trait. Learning how to receive. And I think it's okay to receive the help from others that want to put their capital into something that it's meaningful to them.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's very true. Very,
Yeah.
very wise words. Nice, nice. So another thing is that you've worked between Ecuador and the US for many, many years. You know, you've gone back and forth, and both are your homes.
Yes.
What are some big differences you've seen in the spirituality and the philosophy of these two cultures, and as well as the business style?
Wow. Such a great question. So let's start with the spirituality. It's great to see like these things from an outsider's perspective. So when I did this trip in August, I invited my co-founder to Ecuador, and she gave me or she gave me this feedback about Ecuador that I hadn't realized, which I'm gonna share because it's very relevant. But she told me that she was impressed of how ingrained spirituality is in our everyday lives. For example, all of us, I'm not wearing that right today, but it's very like common to wear a red bracelet to prevent, we call it mal de ojo, which is like to prevent bad luck or to prevent like getting sick, and even like babies. My small like 1 month old nephew wears a red bracelet. And it's like kind of like, I don't know, it's like a protection that you get from the red bracelet. Things like that, or plants. For example, we have so much knowledge about medicinal plants. I grew up, if my stomach hurt, té de manzanilla, you know, chamomile tea from the garden. We have some horchata, which is like this tea made out of 27 or some crazy number like that of 27 different medicinal plants. And we drink that every single day. So we have like this deep connection with nature and with the spiritual realm, or with the non-physical realm, and we always interact with it. We are interacting with it constantly. So for example, I took my friend to the city center, and they were doing limpias there, cleanses.
Oh wow.
There, like, you know, a mom took her in the street.
Wow.
Like that's in the market. You buy fruits, and next to the fruits, there's like a woman doing the cleanses.
A shaman.
Yeah, a shaman.
Yeah, wow.
So it's so ingrained in our culture, and I think I really value that. Here in the US, especially in New York, it's a melting pot. People have their religions, people have their ways of seeing life and engaging with the spiritual realm, but it's very individual. It's very individual. You know? In Ecuador, there's like a shared thing. And also religion is a big thing there, you know, Catholicism. I think more, I'm gonna say a number, but maybe it's wrong, but more than 85% of people are Catholic in Ecuador.
But then there's still that indigenous community that's thriving.
Exactly.
So there's no barrier for Catholics to engage in that, or there is?
There is, like, indigenous communities have been repressed for a long time. Like, there's still many consequences of colonialism, but still we do say and use many things that come from indigenous communities. Like ñaña, for example. Ñaña is a word that means sister, and we use ñaña in our everyday language. Chachay, it's like I'm so cold. We use these Quechua words in our everyday language, but we don't even realize it. And so, for example, when I went to Peru, there was a huge division between Lima and the Andes. And in Lima, people don't use many Quechua words, and they are not as connected with the indigenous culture as we are in Ecuador.
Wow.
Yeah.
And I mean, you mentioned the US, and you know, it's a melting pot, and everyone has their own religion or spiritual community, but then it's still focused on the individual rather than the community. I mean, those are American values, right? That sense of autonomy anything for the individual, and the family is in India it's all about the family. Asian cultures,
Yeah.
it's family comes first, even in Chinese culture, that sense of filial piety. You give back to your parents what they have given to you, and so there's no problem that people after 18 years old are still living with their family.
Yeah.
But in the US they make fun of you, right?
Exactly.
if you're
That's
living
true.
with your family.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's the tough part about the US, but it's also what has enabled this country to really
Exactly.
go to such tremendous heights through that one individual.
I
There's
agree.
been so much achievement, so maybe we need both, but I don't know how to bring that sense of balance, because I struggle
Again,
with
the
it.
duality,
Exactly, that duality.
That's always there.
Yeah, because I think America really teaches you to just do what you need to do, and go for your dreams, and
Achieve.
then achieve.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so the family kind of gets, and I think that's the reason why we have so many divorces in the US, is because it's so individual focused that family comes second.
Yeah.
And perhaps maybe that is why there's a lack of deeper spirituality. The spirituality is innovation, for instance, maybe one could say, or capitalism for that matter.
Yeah.
So that's really, I think it's so awesome. You're living that, like you said, the duality, the polarity, the paradox. You're able to weave that into what you're doing. You're merging the individual and the collective through your work, through your way of life. So, and what about the business? Because Ecuador is so spiritual, how does that affect the way of business and entrepreneurship? Do you see any differences in the way that people work here and the way people work there?
Yeah, things are slower.
Okay.
Definitely, and as you said, family is a priority, and also, I think family is like the biggest priority in Ecuador now that I think about it. So you do work, and there are amazing business, mostly family businesses, but you work to provide or to generate for your family or the bigger country, but there's only to a certain extent. You wouldn't sacrifice yourself and your family in the process of building your business. Very few people would do that, I think. Like, talking about the collective, of course, because there's always outliers in every single country.
Yes.
But I would say, collectively, work is just one part of your life. It's not the entire thing. So, that's, as a result, you have more family businesses, you have more slower pace of growing, building. Also, it can be frustrating if you go to a bank, you have to wait a long time, and it's not as fast. You go to a restaurant, you have to wait, and here everything is quick.
Yes.
And the service is amazing, and you have all this upside to this.
Yeah, it spoils you a
It
little
spoils
bit.
you.
Yeah, that when you go back, it's like, oh my god.
It's hard to adjust, but then once you adjust, it's like your nervous system calms down, and then you're like, wow, I've been on overdrive for a long time,
Yeah.
Once you calm down, it's like you start to appreciate the slow pace, and that way of life.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Your new venture is bringing in a lot of spirituality, and you're using entrepreneurship to bring forth this new way of relating to the world. Do you think it's important for us to now bring these two worlds together, entrepreneurship and spirituality, and is there any value to not even integrating it and letting one side be as it is? Or do you see that there's a tremendous value to integrating both worlds?
So for me personally, integrating both worlds has become part of my purpose. So I know that I want to do that. I really want to integrate those two worlds because I've been exposed to those two worlds, and I see the benefit of integrating that. Having said that, there's also benefit in letting those two worlds apart. Because if you want to have I don't know, if you want to have a startup focused only on growing or making something or scaling a technology, that's totally okay. Like I don't think you need to bring spirituality into it. But or if you want to have like an organization only focused on spirituality and community and you don't want to pay attention to the economic side of it, that's also really okay. But I think because I have been exposed to these two worlds and I have been trying to integrate these two worlds within me, I really need to do it on the outside. Like I really need to integrate them.
Yeah. What is the potential shadow of integrating them that you might conceive of? Not to say that there will be, but let's say there could be. What is one shadow that you perceive?
Like a negative aspect?
Because I mean, at the end of the day, I think everything has a shadow. I mean, wherever there's light, there's also a shadow. And so, the negative. What could possibly go wrong if humanity were to, bring these two worlds deeply intertwined? I think you and I both studied. What's that book that we studied in Social Entrepreneurship? Infinite Vision.
Oh, I love that book.
Yeah, me too. I love that book about Arvind Eye Hospital in India. Very spiritually inclined entrepreneur, which is inspired. Love him. Yeah,
that's so inspiring.
So there is a way to do it. But is there a shadow?
The shadow. Yeah, I think the biggest shadow would be to use spirituality, like kind of greenwashing, but with spirituality. So to say that you're doing something spiritual, but really it is ego-driven, and you use spirituality as a mean of making more money.
Yeah.
And in the process, you really create a negative effect in people or a negative impact, because spirituality is so sacred, so sacred, that the biggest shadow is to maybe eliminating that sacred, you know, from spirituality, and making it only like, I don't know, using it to make more money.
Yeah.
I think that's a shadow.
Yeah. That is definitely a very deep. I like that you brought up greenwashing. You can just see a future where there's gonna be a spiritual washing.
Yeah,
I mean, maybe it's already.
I think there has been.
Yeah, it's definitely.
With all these cults and there's a lot of smoke in this field.
That is true.
There is a lot of smoke there, so
there's a lot.
It's a tricky space, and it's a sacred space as well.
So then the question is, how does one, if they're in this world of integrating both worlds, business and spirituality, how do you maintain a sense of integrity? What are some practices a person can do? I mean, one could easily go down that spiritual narcissism and all that.
Or spiritual bypass.
Yeah, spiritual bypass,
I think you have to really, really, really keep a practice that grounds you. Like for me, meditation is what keeps me grounded, and you have to be really critical on yourself and question everything you're doing and why you're doing it. So I think you have to be very transparent with yourself. That's for me the biggest challenge. And practices like meditation, for me, yoga, help to gain that clarity and help to gain that transparency with yourself. But
I see that when one enters into that mission of bringing these two for the collective, you can't forget about the individual who's behind it. Because if you're thinking, I'm doing this for the world, I'm bringing spiritual, but then you let go of your own practice, and that's when you lose touch with what you're doing.
No, there is no way. Like, I don't think you can build a business. I don't think you can integrate startups with spirituality if you don't have a spiritual practice.
Yes.
You have to embody that first.
Yeah.
That's the only way.
Yeah, that's very true. Very true. Okay, so as someone who has managed to execute one project after another, but you dwell deeply into philosophy and spirituality, what is your strategy of not falling, and I think this is the tough part, of not falling into the realm of thought and letting go of action? Because that's the, if someone is very spiritual, then I'm not saying they're in the realm of thought, but they're in the realm of spirit, perhaps, let's say. But then when you're in business, you're action, execution, right? So there's this, the realm of ideas, let's say, and the realm of action. When one is just starting out, there's a lot of sparkle around the idea, and that's amazing. There's so much beauty to ideas. We all love ideas, and it takes a lot of effort to execute.
A lot.
And there's this lure of spirituality, which says, okay, meditate. Yoga is also, it's very action oriented in some sense, but one could just fall into a deep meditation and forget about action. One could say that. I mean, if you think about Arvind, Eye Hospital, Dr. V was his name. He was inspired by Sri Aurobindo, who spent 27 years inside his apartment, didn't even leave.
Wow.
And just meditated the whole time.
Wow.
While Gandhi, at the same time, Gandhi was walking across villages and talking, it's saying non-violence, do the hand spinning of the cotton wheel, and very action oriented. In Indian philosophy, you could say he was all about karma yoga. Karma is the essence of action, while Sri Aurobindo, he had this sense of integral yoga, bringing in jnana yoga, and which is about the mind, the body, and integrating it all. But he wasn't very action oriented, I would say. If someone is spending time in an apartment, not even leaving, and just meditating, is there value to that? Or
of course,
yeah, you think so? And just answer this as well as you answer me. How does one, if you're trying to integrate, how do you not fall into just the realm of spirit and holding thought, holding idea and action in balance continuously? How do you do that?
Yeah, it's very challenging. I do think there's value in what Sir Aurobindo did.
Yes.
And it's about the purpose you have in this world. Not everyone is called to be an entrepreneur,
Yes.
Not everyone is called to build businesses.
Yes.
Some people are called into the spiritual realm and they want to dive deep into that.
Right.
For me, I know that's not my calling. So I have been dealing with this constant flow of action and inspiration. And I think I'm gonna compare this. I do not have children, but I took a mother-child matrix class and I was surprised at how similar the whole process of becoming a mother is to entrepreneurship.
Oh, wow. That's beautiful.
So there's this part where gestation.
Yeah, gestation. Yes.
Where you first incubation, and then gestation, where the baby is growing inside you. So for me, that's when the ideas are brewing inside you, and you get inspired and something is cooking. Something is cooking and you feel it growing, slowly. It takes time, but then there's this need to push. Like there's this need to give birth to it. And that's what happened. I'm going to use the example with Aweik. We went to India. We felt so inspired by all the entrepreneurs we were working with. And we had this initial sensation that we wanted to do something in Ecuador that was similar to what we experienced in India. We wanted to bring our knowledge or our insights to our country. That was the initial thought. And then, Vane is the driver, my twin sister. She's like push, she doesn't gestate. She's just like, let's do it.
That's amazing.
She's the other. I'm more like, let's incubate this.
Yeah.
She's like, no, let's do it. So she went to Ecuador and she started talking to a lot of people and she did a PowerPoint.
Wow.
And that was the initial push,
Amazing.
So she pushed me in a sense and I was like, wait, what? You did what? Yeah, we have a date. We have reserved the space and everything. But initially it was going to be a 20 people event, something like that, very small, because she needed to do it, But for me, it was like incubating. And then when she pushed, I was like, okay, it's time to give birth, So then I was like, okay, we need to do this.
Yeah.
But then since I had been thinking about it for a long time, it became so much bigger. So you need those two forces,
Yeah.
In this case, two twins, one has like the push and I have more like the
like really holding it and
it. But if you really want to create something big and sustainable, you have to have both.
Yes.
So you have to be in tune with the rhythm of that idea. And you're gonna feel the need to push at some time. And maybe you feel that need, but you don't act on it because you're scared.
Yeah.
So that's when you have to do the inner work of letting go of those fears and really acting. But just doing one small thing can help to bring that idea out, I think.
Yeah.
One small action after another,
Yeah, to constantly be in that cycle, right? Because you're always like kind of gestating, and then you're giving birth, and then that whole cycle continues. So if you just like if Vane didn't push through, then maybe you guys would have gestated for long, and then that cycle would have come to an end, but it would have taken a little bit longer.
Or maybe it wouldn't have come to an end.
Yeah,
that happens too.
That is
so. Yes. You do need to take action.
Yeah.
And I know I've seen you in your process as well, and now you're so action oriented, and it's amazing to see. But you needed that time to really think about what you're building.
Yes.
And now it's gonna be so much stronger because you took that time.
Right.
So yeah, but it's difficult.
It is.
It's not easy at all, because when you are in that spiritual realm or in that like philosophy realm, it's so nice to be there, Yeah. It's like everything is okay. I can live with like nothing and be fine. Like you are one with the universe. Like you don't need to get out of there.
Yeah, that is exactly what I'm feeling right now, which is that I'm having to push and push and push, like the contractions almost. Like, but so it's so painful that I'm like, I need to go into that other realm, because I almost feel a lack of tenderness, because obviously again that masculinity is coming through. I'm trying to find that femininity as well. So that balance is very tough sometimes, especially when you're in a period in which you just have to act. You already have the idea, now it's just about pushing it through.
But also, when you push, if you tap into that spiritual field, the pushing becomes easier. So for example, with Aweik, it was like, we did a lot of work. We really pushed hard, but the magnitude of the things we achieved was not proportionate to what we did, It was like we were 21, 22 years old. We ended up doing like this huge event. Like it was like, wow, how you look back and you say, how did we do it?
Yeah.
And I do think it's because we also were super connected to that spiritual realm. So we were channeling things through us. We were not just like imposing our will and this is what we want to do. It was like this need that this is what we are here to do, you know?
Yes.
Like this is what we need to do. Like it has to come through us.
Yeah.
But it's not from us.
Yeah.
That's the difference, Yeah.
So
you do the work of pushing, but then the thing that you give birth to, it's something that you are like, wow.
Yeah.
Like, and things fall into place, doors open, synchronicities happen.
Yeah.
If you are connected to that realm.
That is true. Yeah. That's when you know you're really on the right path. That even the amount of pain that you're going through it's all worth it.
All worth it.
Yeah. That's when you know.
Exactly. And you know it in the process too.
Yes, that's true.
Somehow you feel inspired, you know. You are pushing. You are tired, but somehow you can still push.
Yeah.
Like how?
Yeah. Where does that energy come from?
Yeah.
It's something beyond.
It's something beyond.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah. That's amazing. I love hearing that.
Yeah.
So, this is obviously a podcast based on Philosopreneur. I'm trying to
I love that name. I love it. I was like, that's so Sonia.
Thank you.
I love it.
So, it's about bringing the sense of, which is, philosophy is a bit slow also, not to say that they're not fast people, but it's generally a bit slow because you're thinking all the time. And look at that little bird over there. It's almost as though it's gonna come in. I don't know. But it's very curious. Oh.
He wants something in the kitchen.
Yeah, I think it's enjoying our conversation.
I love it. I always, when I get in flow, I see birds, you know?
That's amazing. I love that.
Also, like synchronicities.
Yeah.
When you are tapped into that also spiritual realm,
Yeah.
you start to see things.
Yes.
And life becomes so much more interesting.
Yeah, it's like a lot of magic.
A lot of magic.
Enchantment. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that also helps you to push harder.
Yes, absolutely.
So I do think that there's a lot of value in becoming spiritual if you want to start a venture.
Yes.
Like using that to push.
Yeah. Yeah, I really appreciate that. So yeah, this Philosopreneur, it's about holding what is slow and what is fast at the same time. It's all about holding that paradox as well. It's about holding the value of thinking and strategizing for as long as one can, thinking about the nature of reality, and then also just executing, maybe not even using one's thought. Sometimes people just do that. They just act without a deeper sense of thought. So it's about holding the value of both. And then it's also about having a large sense of, it's having a vision, but it's also about looking at the evolution of humanity, because that's what philosophy does. It's also looking at history. Philosophy is really about history, because you're looking at what humanity has done, and then you're writing about it. You're putting out your worldview. So that's really what the Philosopreneur is about. It's about having this cosmic vision of the world and bringing forth something that is going to help humanity evolve. So do you think we need more Philosopreneurs in the world?
100%. 1000%. Yeah, of course. Like everything, I think we could solve a lot of problems if we have more Philosopreneurs, because sometimes people do things because they want to, I don't know, maybe you didn't have money growing up and you want to have money now, or maybe you didn't get recognition and you want to get recognition now, and that's totally fine. You can do that, but sometimes they do these things that don't add value to the world. But I do think that if you really take the time to think and you really dig deeper and you ask why I want to do this and what's the purpose of doing this, what's the impact that I'm gonna have by doing this, you're gonna create something so much better for you and for others. And it's gonna be beneficial for everyone.
Yeah.
So I think that, people have to integrate this more. Yeah,
I agree as well, and that's why I enjoy talking to people like you who are doing it. It's just, it adds a lot of flavor to the world, because there's not one way of doing it. There's so many philosophies, there's so many ways of being, and I think business is so fun. It really tests you to see, does your vision, does it have a sense of integrity? Is it strong enough for the business world to take it forward, to bring, because if you want to bring things to the masses, I think business has to be involved to some extent.
No, totally. I totally agree with that.
So what does an average day in Ale as a Philosopreneur look like?
Every day looks different, to be honest, because now that I'm studying and also balancing studies with the startup, it's very different. But for example, every Monday I have meetings with my co-founders. So I wake up, meditate, do yoga, cook breakfast. Like, I really love slow mornings, to really like try to, I don't know, bring the philosophy part into my life more. I read the readings for the class, and then sometimes I have lunch with my co-founder and we work on the venture. We have been working on different things every day because we are in the early stages of the business. But for example, last week we did the branding.
Nice.
And all these workshops, these creative workshops, which were so cool.
Yeah.
And when we have these meetings, since both of us are very spiritual, we infuse a lot of spirituality into these meetings. So we talk about like bigger things and feelings and why we are doing what we're doing, if it makes sense or not. So we integrate that every single day.
Yeah.
And then, for example, on Mondays after our meetings, we go together to yoga.
Nice.
To end the day.
That's awesome.
And we have a session of yoga and finish the day. And then I go back, cook. And
that's really beautiful. I like that it's so integrated. You know, you guys have these large conversations, but then you're getting the business done. And then after that, you end your day with a nice yoga session. That's really nice. Yeah. And I'm sure it must be really busy with school. So I don't know how you're managing a graduate program along with a venture.
It's been hard.
But you're almost kind of at the tail end of it.
I'm at the end.
So then you'll go full into the venture.
Full. I can't wait.
Yeah.
I'm in the stage where I'm so excited that I can't wait.
Yes, and I'm excited to see if you and Vane, who's studying, what was the program?
I think it's a master's in biodiversity conservation and management.
Yeah,
but maybe I'm wrong.
but along those lines.
Those lines.
So she's focusing on the environment. You're focusing on spirituality.
Yeah,
and then there's maybe a convergence that will happen, and I'm very excited to see what that's about.
Right now what we have together is the podcast.
Yes.
But I do think that nature and spirituality have many similarities.
Yes, absolutely. I agree too. So what is one piece of advice you would give a young female philosopreneur today?
I think invest in yourself. Really invest in developing that spiritual or philosophical practice. Take time to really think what you want to do and why you want to do it. And once you know, don't delay it, just push and take small steps, and then it's gonna continue. Like, you just have to take one step, the first step. So to synthesize it, take time to explore, dig deeper, go into an inner journey, and when you know what you want to do, just push.
That's beautiful. I really appreciate that. Thank you, Ale, for joining me on this Philosopreneur podcast, and thank you everyone for tuning in.
Thank you. I love having conversations with you. So
same here.
This was amazing.
I feel so inspired, and I hope you guys did too. Thank you.
Thank you for listening.
Thank you.
Bye.